Welcome back, everybody. Today, we're going to be doing a deep dive into golf instruction. Specifically, what makes a truly great instructor.
Okay, sounds good.
And our main source material is an interview with a golf professional, Henrik. He shares some pretty interesting, almost revolutionary insights.
Interesting.
Yeah. So let me just ask you right off the bat, have you ever taken golf lessons? What was that experience like for you?
Yeah, I've taken a handful over the years. Some were better than others.
Yeah.
I think the most valuable ones were the ones that helped me simplify my swing and really kind of focus on just a couple key things instead of trying to overhaul everything at once.
Right.
It's easy to get overwhelmed when you're trying to change like 10 things at the same time.
Yeah, that's something Henrik really emphasizes in this interview.
Oh, does he?
Yeah. The golf swing happens so quickly, he says that trying to think about multiple things is almost counterproductive.
Right.
So instead of trying to fix everything at once, he looks for one element that, if adjusted, one thing, could create that domino effect.
Huh.
And improve other aspects of your swing.
I like that. The domino effect. So it's kind of like finding the root cause of the problem instead of treating all the symptoms, right?
Exactly.
So instead of dissecting the entire swing, he might focus on, I don't know, like something small, like your grip.
Yeah. So something simple like grip strength can actually have a ripple effect through your whole swing.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's say you have a weak grip.
Okay.
That can lead to an open club face at impact, causing the ball to slice. By strengthening the grip, the club face naturally squares up and the slice kind of just disappears. It's about identifying that one crucial thing that sets everything else in motion.
It's incredible. Like how many golfers are out there working on the wrong things because they haven't identified that one thing?
All the time, probably. I mean, that's why you go to instructors, right, to get that guidance.
Right. And Henrik stresses the need to understand, like, what the student wants to achieve and how much time they can realistically dedicate to practice.
Makes sense. So, like, not a one-size-fits-all method.
No. He believes in working within the student's limitations
Okay.
and focusing on what will make the biggest impacts for them. It's about maximizing results with the resources available.
Smart.
The interviewer, Andrew, actually mentions he's taken lessons all over the world, and he's never encountered this laser focus approach.
Really?
He even says he's probably fallen into that trap of trying to fix too many things at once.
I mean, that's easy to do. We often get overwhelmed by information out there, and we end up chasing like multiple swing thoughts instead of focusing on, like we said, the most impactful change.
This really highlights the value of having a great instructor.
Yeah.
Someone that can cut through the noise and pinpoint what truly matters.
Yeah, someone who can see what you can't.
Right.
They have that expert eye. But so you find that element, that one thing. What then?
Well, Henrik mentions using stories in this context.
Yeah.
He thinks that using stories can make things more memorable
Okay. Yeah.
and relatable.
Sure. I mean, we all love a good story, right?
He says, a well-chosen story can stick with a student long after the lesson is over and inspire them to keep practicing.
Interesting. So it kind of just cements the learning.
Yeah, and Andrew actually brings that up as well.
He does.
He says he's always found that stories help to cement the learning.
Okay.
It's like that old saying, tell me and I'll forget, teach me and I may remember, involve me and I learn.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stories definitely help make things stick. So it's not just about what you teach, but how you teach it, right?
Right.
So how you teach it. Okay.
And this brings us to another point that Henrik brings up.
Yeah.
Owning a move.
Owning a move. Okay. What exactly does that mean?
So he believes that a truly great instructor doesn't just teach a move, but they help the student ingrain it
Okay.
to the point where it becomes second nature, almost unconscious.
Yeah, like muscle memory.
Yeah. It's like when something clicks and you no longer have to think about it, you just do it.
Got it. I think we need to unpack this idea of owning a move a little bit more.
Yeah, let's explore that further in the next part of our deep dive. So we were just talking about this idea of owning a move.
Mm-hmm.
What does that look and feel like for a golfer?
Well, it's like you're progressing beyond conscious thought to where the move just becomes ingrained in your muscle memory.
Okay.
Henrik actually uses a kind of interesting analogy.
Yeah.
He says it's like learning to ride a bike.
Okay.
At first, you're all wobbly, thinking about every pedal stroke, but eventually it becomes effortless.
Right.
You're not thinking about, keeping your balance, you're just riding.
Yeah. So it's the same with the golf swing.
Right. And a great instructor helps facilitate that transition
How do they do that?
by breaking down the move into manageable pieces.
Okay.
Remember Henrik's emphasis on focusing on just one thing at a time.
Right. Setup, backswing thought and downswing thought. He said that's like the maximum a student can handle at once.
Yeah. And he's really deliberate about that. He explains that, a golf swing happens so quickly that you simply can't consciously process a bunch of complex movements in that short span of time.
So it's about training specific movement patterns, not overwhelming the student with too much information.
Exactly. Repetition is key.
Hmm.
So once a student kind of understands the correct feeling of the move,
Yeah.
it's all about practice, practice, practice. But here's kind of the interesting part.
Okay, I'm listening.
Henrik actually believes that even when a move becomes owned,
Yeah.
it's not about achieving this perfect, like robotic consistency.
Hmm.
He embraces variability.
That seems kind of counterintuitive. Wouldn't you want every swing to be exactly the same?
I think that's what a lot of golfers strive for.
Right.
But Henrik argues that too much rigidity can actually be detrimental.
Okay.
He believes that a golfer needs to be able to kind of adapt their swing to different conditions, different lies, different shots.
So it's more about having a solid foundation and then being able to build upon that,
Yeah.
making subtle adjustments as needed.
Exactly. It's like having a really strong core, which allows you to move freely and adapt to different situations.
Got it.
And this brings us back to Henrik's point about tailoring his approach to the individual,
Right.
understanding their goals, their time commitment.
Yeah. So how does that play into this idea of owning a move?
Well, it's about recognizing that not every golfer needs to achieve the same level of mastery.
Okay.
Some golfers might be perfectly content with a swing that's consistent enough to break 100,
Sure.
while others might be aiming to, compete at a professional level.
So the instructor needs to assess those aspirations and tailor the instruction accordingly.
Exactly. It's about setting realistic expectations, working within those boundaries.
Right.
So, for example, someone with limited practice time
Yeah.
might focus on owning just a few key moves that will have the biggest impact on their overall game.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Prioritizing the most important elements and working towards achievable goals.
Right. And that's where communication comes in again.
Mm-hmm.
A good instructor needs to be able to explain why certain moves are prioritized over others and how those choices align with the student's overall goals.
Right. It's about building that trust and ensuring that the student feels confident in the process.
Absolutely. And remember, all of this is underpinned by that crucial element we discussed earlier,
Yeah.
identifying that one thing that's going to have the biggest impact.
Right. That domino effect. Like if you can find that one lever that sets everything else in motion, you can unlock a whole new level of potential.
Yeah. It's a really powerful concept, and it really challenges us to think differently about how we approach, golf instruction and learning in general.
We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. Everything from Henrik's unique teaching philosophy to the importance of communication and building rapport. What stands out to you as the most valuable takeaway?
I think for me, it's the emphasis on simplicity and prioritization. In a world of information overload, Henrik's approach reminds us that sometimes the biggest breakthroughs come from focusing on the smallest details.
That's a great point. It's like we don't need to overcomplicate things. The most effective solutions are often the simplest ones.
Right.
But, like we've been discussing, finding that simplicity often requires the guidance of an expert, someone who can see the bigger picture and kind of guide us on the right path.
Totally. We've talked a lot about the instructor's role in this whole process. But what about the student?
Yeah, you're right. What responsibility does the golfer have in all of this? But what about the student's role in this whole owning a move process?
Well, the student needs to be an active participant, not just a passive recipient of information.
Yeah.
They need to be willing to put in the work both on the range and on the course.
So it sounds like it's a true partnership, a shared journey between the instructor and the student.
Exactly. And that brings us to another crucial element that Henrik emphasizes.
Which is,
Feedback. He believes that clear, concise feedback is essential for helping students understand their progress and identify areas for improvement.
so it's not just about the instructor giving instructions, but also providing constructive feedback along the way.
Yes, and it's a two-way street.
Okay.
The student also needs to be able to communicate openly with the instructor, expressing their thoughts, their feelings, any challenges they're facing.
It's about building that trust and rapport we talked about earlier,
Right.
creating an environment where both parties feel comfortable sharing their perspectives.
Exactly. And remember, feedback isn't always about what's wrong.
Right.
It's also about recognizing and reinforcing what's going well.
celebrating those small victories along the way.
Absolutely. Positive reinforcement can be a powerful motivator, especially when you're learning something as challenging as golf.
Yeah.
It helps build confidence and encourages the student to keep pushing forward.
It makes me think of something that Andrew mentioned in the interview. He talked about how a good instructor can often spot potential that the student themselves might not even see.
That's a great point. A skilled instructor can see beyond the current limitations and envision what the student is capable of achieving with the right guidance and support.
So it's about unlocking that potential that might be hidden or dormant.
I love that way of putting it, and that's what makes this whole process so exciting.
Hmm.
It's not just about improving a golf swing, it's about personal growth and self-discovery.
Yeah, it's about embracing the challenge, pushing beyond our comfort zones, and realizing that we're capable of more than we might think.
Exactly. And that brings us back to our initial question, what makes a great golf instructor?
Well, I think we've uncovered some pretty insightful answers.
Yeah.
It's about more than just teaching mechanics. It's about understanding the individual, building a strong relationship, and creating an environment where learning and growth can flourish.
It's about being a mentor, a guide, and a cheerleader, all rolled into one.
And it's about recognizing that the journey itself is just as important as the destination. It's about finding joy in the process, embracing the ups and downs, and celebrating the small victories along the way.
Beautifully said. And I think that's a perfect note to end on.
I agree. I hope this deep dive has given you, our listener, a fresh perspective on golf instruction and inspired you to think about your own approach to learning and improvement both on and off the course.
Remember, it's never too late to seek out guidance, embrace new ideas, and unlock your full potential.
Until next time, happy golfing, everyone.